Well, hey there, and welcome back to Heimler's History. In this video, we're going to look at the most complex writing you're going to have to do for the AP government curriculum, namely the argumentative essay. Is it difficult?
Yep.
Does it require you to use everything you've learned in this course?
Yep.
Are you going to punch it in the throat, yank out its armpit hair, and then deliberately hurt its feelings?
Oh, yeah.
Well, all right then, let's get to it. So, the argumentative essay is the last thing you'll have to do on your exam, and let me start by giving you some preliminaries. It's an essay scored on a scale of 6 points, and you need to pay attention when I explain the rubric because these points build on each other. Second, the suggested time that you're going to have to write this essay is 40 minutes. Third, this essay is always going to focus on material from the 9 foundational documents that are required in this course, and if you need help on those, I've got videos explaining them all, so have a look. Okay, now with all of that out of the way, let me walk you through the 3 steps you need to follow in order to score well on this essay. Step number 1, read the prompt. And I know this sounds too obvious to even say out loud, but remember, when I'm under pressure, I am dumber than I think, so I need to really take a minute and understand what they're asking me to do. Remember, if you misunderstand the prompt and yet write the most magnificent essay in the history of political science on another topic, you will earn 0 points because you have to answer the prompt that they give you. So what should you be looking for in the prompt? Well, I think you should be looking for 2 things, the subject and the argument. Let me just give you an example. Here's the prompt from the 2019 exam. Develop an argument about whether the expanded powers of the national government benefits or hinders policymaking. Okay, what is going to be the subject of my essay? The expanded powers of the national government. And second, what will I be arguing? Whether that benefits or hinders policymaking. So underline those things, mark them up, tattoo them on your forehead, just make sure you understand what they're asking you to do. Now they also give you a little introduction here, and that's helpful, so don't skip over it. And they also give you 3 required documents, and I'll show you what to do with those when we get to the preparation section, which is roughly now. Step 2 is to spend a few minutes planning your essay, and let me tell you what you need to do in this plan. The driving force of this essay is going to be the evidence that you produce in support of an argument. So spend a couple of minutes, no more than a couple of minutes, brainstorming and writing down all the potential pieces of specific evidence that you could use to address this prompt. You don't even have to have an argument yet. All you're doing is mining the old brain folds for relevant vocabulary words. So in response to the prompt we just looked at, here's a few pieces of evidence that immediately come to mind. And if you're already starting to panic at this point because you're not sure that you could remember this, don't worry, because look at this. They've already given you 3 pieces of evidence that you could potentially use. Now, I'll tell you what the requirements are for these in the 3rd step, but for now, I'm just going to look at my prompt and think about how each of these documents might provide evidence for an argument. And notice they're going to give you documents that can support the argument in several different ways. So next to the Articles of Confederation, I'm just going to write a quick note about how the weakness of the central government hindered policymaking. Next to Brutus 1, I'm going to write a note about how a large republic will keep people from knowing their representatives and vice versa. Next to Federalist 10, I'm going to write competition of factions. Now, you should also think about some evidence that is not on this list, and since this is a question about federalism, I'm just going to jot down fiscal federalism since that has to do with policymaking, and I also think of Federalist 70, which has to do with the efficiency of a single executive. Okay, now that's actually way more evidence than I need to score full points, but it's good to have more than you need. Just do a brain dump here and it's going to help you in the next step. Speaking of which, step 3, get a 6. Now, in order to get a 6, you need to get real cozy with the rubric because the rubric tells you exactly what the readers of these essays are going to be looking for and the standard by which they're going to judge your writing. So let's get into the weeds and talk about each point. The first section on the rubric is for the thesis, and you can earn 1 point for it. Now, technically your thesis can be anywhere in the essay and still earn the point, but I strongly suggest that you put it either at the beginning or the end of your essay, and the reason is this. You want to signal to the reader that you know what you're doing and that you have a plan. Remember that these are human beings reading these essays, and you don't want them to have to go on a hunt to find your thesis in order for you to earn the point. Now, to be clear, they will go on a hunt for it and find it and give you the point if it's there, but just make it easy for them and put it at the beginning or at the end. My suggestion is to put it first so that you know what you're doing and where you're going. Now, as I'm fond of reminding my students, don't let your theses be feces. If you want to earn the thesis point, then you need to do 2 things. You need to make an argument and be specific with your evidence. So going back to the prompt we already looked at, here's a thesis that would earn the point. The expanded powers of the national government benefit policymaking because of the strength of the Constitution, the increase of cooperative federalism, and the advantages of fiscal federalism. Okay, this is a thesis written by a student, and notice, it makes an argument. Expanded powers benefit policymaking. And then it's also specific. Why do expanded powers benefit policymaking? Because of the strength of the Constitution, the increase of cooperative federalism, and the advantages of fiscal federalism. Boom, that gets the point because it makes an argument and is specific with the evidence. And those 3 pieces of evidence give you a roadmap for how you're going to construct your body paragraphs. Now, the last thing I'll say about the thesis is this. I cannot overemphasize how important it is that you write a good argumentative thesis, because if you don't earn this point, the highest score you can get on the whole essay is 1 out of 6. Because this whole essay is going to be about supporting an argument with evidence, then you have to have an argument argument to support. So get the thesis down and you'll be fine. Okay, the next section on the rubric is the evidence section, and here you can earn up to 3 points. Now, I debated whether to walk you through all the possibilities for how to get points here, or whether just to focus on how to get full points so everything will be a little simpler, but I think it's helpful for you to see how each of these points is awarded so you know exactly what to do to earn full points. So on the evidence section, you can start by earning 0 points. You'll get this if your evidence is just flat out wrong or too vague. And to avoid the vague part, just make sure that you're thinking about actual vocabulary words from your textbook or your notes or class or whatever. That will keep you from being too vague. Okay, then you can earn 1 point here for naming one piece of evidence relevant to the topic of the prompt. For example, if you say, under the Articles of Confederation, the central government was weak and the states were strong, then that definitely is relevant to the prompt, but there's no real argumentation there. So if you do that, you will get 1 point. And by the way, when I said earlier that if you don't get the thesis point, you can only earn 1 out of 6, this is the point that you can earn. This is literally a soft toss from the College Board. And it's like they're saying, you know, we don't want a bunch of zeros on this essay, so what's the lowest possible bar that we can set? And that's it. Okay, now let's talk about how you get 2 points in this section. This just builds on the previous point. If you successfully identify one piece of relevant evidence, you get 1 point. But if you use that evidence to support your thesis, that will earn you 2 points. And I'm going to show you the difference between just mentioning evidence and supporting an argument with evidence when we get to the next section of the rubric. And just to be clear, this piece of evidence doesn't have to come from those 3 documents listed there. It can come from anywhere in the course as long as it's relevant. But hey, you didn't click on this video to score 2 points on this section, so let me show you how to earn the full 3 points. This point also builds on the last point. In the last point, you earn 2 points for using one piece of evidence to support your thesis. Here, you just need to add one more piece of evidence to support your thesis, and that will get you 3 total points. However, let me hasten to add, in order to earn 3 points, at least one piece of evidence has to come from the documents they list in the prompt. The second piece can also come from another document in the list, or it can come from anywhere in the course, but one of them has to come from that list. Okay, so now that we've earned the thesis point and the 3 points for evidence, let's move to the next section of the rubric, the reasoning section, and for this you can earn up to 1 point. And this point has to do with the evidence you've already used. It's not for a third piece of evidence. Here they want you to go one step beyond supporting your thesis with your evidence and go further by demonstrating how or why your evidence supports your thesis. And you're probably like, what? So let me try to explain that as simply as I can. Essentially, you need to do 3 things with your evidence. You need to name it, explain it, and analyze it. Now, to be fair, this isn't the only way to do it, but I think it's helpful to have a formula. So name it, like we're actually going to write the name of our evidence here. Then explain it, which is to say, define it for me. And then analyze it. Show me how that evidence supports your thesis. So let me just give you a student example with the prompt that we've been using. The Articles of Confederation is a prime example of why a strong national government is better. Okay, I just named my evidence. With the Articles, the government could do very little. It made the states more independent by allowing them to have their own currency and impose their own taxes. There, the answer just explained what the government was like under the Articles, and now watch how it goes one step further and demonstrates how the evidence supports the thesis. The Articles of Confederation made it harder to pass laws because each state has very different agendas, and it required over a majority of them to agree. To amend it required a unanimous decision. This makes it nearly impossible to add a new amendment to change policy. Okay, that is how you earn the reasoning point. And the final section on the rubric is for an alternate perspective, and for this you can earn 1 point. Now, as you no doubt have learned in this course, there is not a general consensus on dang near anything in politics. So in a couple of sentences, all you're going to do here is acknowledge an opposing view, and then you're going to show how your argument makes better sense of the evidence. Now, there are other ways to earn this point. You can consult the rubric if you want to know them, but to me, this is the most straightforward way that students understand. Show an alternative perspective, and then show why your argument is better. And here's a student example. Some people may argue that the federal government is too large and that states are best suited to address the needs of their people without interference from the federal government. Okay, that's the summary of the alternative perspective. Now, why is my argument better? However, this is not true. The state governments are not equipped to handle all the problems they face without the federal government. The federal government can act with uniformity to affect all states to ensure that everyone is guaranteed the same protections as everyone else. And that's it. If you can do all of that, you will certainly earn a 6 on this essay. Best of luck. All right, I hope that helped. And if you want some more help, then click right here and grab my ultimate review packet, which has everything you need to get an A in your class and a 5 on your exam in May. If you want help on the other kinds of FRQs, then check this playlist right here. And if you want me to keep making these videos, then by all means subscribe, and I shall oblige. Heimler out.